Thank you. Welcome to our Tuesday, February 8th, 2022 Customer Assistance Program Workshop. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953E, this meeting will be conducted by webinar and teleconference only. A physical location has not been provided for this meeting. All directors, including myself, are participating remotely. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman will be joining us. Director Katz.
Present.
Director McIntosh.
Here.
Director Mellon.
Present.
Director Patterson.
Yes.
Director Young.
Yes, I'm here.
President Lenny.
Here. We're now at, we start our meetings with public comment on non-agenda items. If members of the public wish to speak on an agenda or non-agenda items, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard at the beginning of this workshop, and comments on the workshop presentation will be heard at the end of the presentation. When prompted, please state your name, affiliation, if applicable, and topic. Please refrain from providing personal information such as addresses or phone numbers during public comment. If we need this information, we'll have you contact staff. The secretary will call each speaker in the order received, and each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. However, I have the discretion to amend that time based on the number of speakers. The secretary will track the time and inform each speaker when the allotted time has concluded. Do we have any speakers?
I have one hand for public comment. Kyle Mitchell, you should be able to unmute your mic. And are you speaking on a non-agenda item or are you speaking on the workshop presentation?
I believe services for the unhoused are on the agenda.
Correct. And so we are taking comments on the presentation at the end of the presentation?
Yes, I understand.
Okay, so,
Wait.
all right. So anyone speaking on if you have non-agenda items, please raise your hand now. If you're speaking on the presentation, the comments will be taken at the end of the presentation. And so you can raise your hand then. Okay. We have no one for comment on non-agenda items.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started. Board members will have the opportunity to comment and ask questions after each section of the presentation. General Manager Clifford Chan will now introduce the workshop.
Good morning, board members. So today we'll be presenting to you our 2022 Customer Assistance Program update. Much of our work last year has been focused on helping those that were most affected by COVID. And so this included getting arrears funding to help those who had difficulty paying their bills, continuing our outreach efforts and doing more targeted outreach to inform our customers about our customer assistance program, and working with some of the cities to provide relief for their sewer collection charges similar to our CAP program. Today you'll get an update on the success that we've had in those areas. We'll also provide an update on our customer support program, which goes beyond just financial support, but also helping our customers manage their water use, provide education and outreach, and partner with other groups. Last year, we modified our regulations governing water service as part of our continuing efforts to be part of the solution to homelessness in our service area, and you'll hear about that as well. And finally, as we continue to grow our CAP program, we'll discuss and seek your support for our funding plan for the program. This funding plan was discussed with the Finance and Administration Committee last year. As President Linney noted, this workshop is divided into a number of topics, and we'll pause at the end of each topic for board questions and comments. At this point, I'll introduce Andrew Lee, our Director of Customer and Community Services, to begin the workshop.
Thank you, Clifford. Just want to do a check. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 CAP workshop. First, I would like to acknowledge that 2022 marks a major milestone for our program. And this year we are celebrating the program's 35-year anniversary. And I would want to say that for the past 35 years, CAP has helped over thousands of families and making their water bill more affordable. And really on behalf of all the people who are currently participating on the program and all those who have participated in the program in the past, I want to thank the board for adopting this forward-thinking policy 35 years ago. Obviously, without your policy, none of this would be possible. We have a great workshop plan for you. My team and I have a lot to cover today, so I'm gonna get right into it. And Risha, can you get to the next slide? Go back to one more. Okay, so today, the speakers include myself, and we have Latrice King, Customer Service Manager for the Contact Center and also Field Services. And then we have also Terry Dean Alderson, our Customer Service Manager overseeing our billing and remittance services. Next slide, please. Here's the agenda for today. Per normal, we will begin with an overview of our highlights for 2021. The board will also get an update on the ongoing COVID-19 impact that the district is tracking since the very beginning of the pandemic. Obviously, our customers are still struggling, and we're trying to find ways to help them. And we also will provide an overview of the utility awareness relief landscape at both the federal and state level. As I mentioned earlier, we continue to see customers struggling with their water bill, but we do have some great news for them coming up. The board will also receive a brief update on progress that we have made on the customer support program and also our ongoing effort to support the unhoused community, and also the outcome of your policy to support this community. I will end the workshop by reviewing our funding strategy for CAP and also share some of the next steps for the program. Next slide, please. So at this moment, I'm going to hand the presentation over to Latrice King to go over our 2021 CAP highlights and some of our key accomplishments. Latrice.
Great. Thanks, Andrew. Good morning, board members. My name is Latrice King, and I have the pleasure of sharing some of the 2021 CAP accomplishments. Slide 5, please. In 2021, the district saw a significant increase in CAP customer participation. The program grew to nearly 30% since the onset of the pandemic. And during this time period, the district helped over 10,000 customers, which is the most amount of customers we've ever assisted in CAP in 1 year in the history of the program. And while we believe the pandemic drove the increase in customer participation, we also feel the focus and our outreach efforts have been impactful. One of the most significant additions to the customer assistance program is that CAP customers are now benefiting from an additional added credit on their city sewer collecting charges from 2 of the 3 cities we collect on behalf of, Oakland and Emeryville. We are in the process of guaranteeing a discount from the city of Berkeley, and which will be discussed further down in the presentation. Slide 6, please. Some additional accomplishments with regard to the CAP program are: we implemented an online CAP application process, which gives our customers another option to apply for the program, and it makes the process more streamlined. The online process was implemented in March 2021 and has since generated over 1,200 CAP applications as of January 2022. We've also submitted applications to the listed relief funding programs that are designed to help customers with arrearages because of the pandemic impacts. Those programs are the California Water and Wastewater Arrearages Program, also known as QUAP, the Emergency Rental Relief Program, also known as ERAP, and the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, LIWAP. Terry will discuss each program in more detail later on in the presentation. And in the last CAP workshop, the board requested that staff develop a sustainable funding strategy, in which Andrew will have the privilege to share more information on this subject as well when he presents. Slide 7, please. EBMUD provides one of the highest discount benefits to its CAP customers in comparison to other districts. Our customer assistance program was established to provide, promote, and finance a customer assistance program to temporarily reduce the cost of water service by 50% of the monthly water service and flow charges, and reduce by 35% wastewater service and flow charges for eligible residential low-income customers and homeless shelters. Once approved on the program, low-income residential customers are eligible to benefit from the program for a 2-year period before having to recertify. This chart shares with you the eligibility income requirements that are updated each year and is based on the very low HUD standards for Alameda and Contra Costa County. Additionally, the district has worked very hard with the 3 cities that we collect city sewer collecting charges for to implement a discount program for eligible CAP customers. And I will provide more information on these efforts and results later on in the presentation. Slide 8, please. We understand that affordability of water and wastewater services can be challenging for low-income customers, and we're dedicated to working with our customers and the community to provide temporary assistance to those who are unable to pay their bills in full. This awareness motivates the team to continue to get the message out about our customer assistance program. And based on comments from the board at last year's workshop, extra efforts went into getting the word out about CAP. This slide provides some of those outreach activities done throughout the year to encourage customers in need to apply for the program. And there's quite a bit of outreach activities listed here, as you can see, so I'll just highlight a few of them. First on the list is the bus route ad campaign. And to the right of that list, you can see the bus route mapping area where the CAP program was visibly promoted and mobilized throughout the cities. Other ways we promoted CAP were through periodic postings about CAP on social media, through mailers and publications, through digital media, on billboard ads, and through traditional messaging such as on billing statements and on our website. Slide 9, please. The pandemic required staff to be a little more creative in the way that we promoted the CAP program. So this slide is a continuation of some of those additional outreach efforts. As you can see from this slide, throughout the pandemic, staff remained focused and successfully partnered with community partners to promote the CAP program at places such as vaccine sites, food banks, local schools, nonprofits, and we conducted targeted outreach to homeless shelters. We also had a rare opportunity to partner with some very bright and innovative high school students or interns this past summer. Who actually contributed to helping out with the efforts to promote the CAP program. The interns provided ideas on the best ways to promote the program and took action to share information about CAP with other students, school personnel, and members of their community. Slide 10, please. Due to all the outreach activities presented on the previous two slides, we continue to see a significant growth in the CAP participation. This graph gives you a snapshot of how the program has grown over the past 10 years. And we have seen the most significant growth just within the last 2 years. Specifically, the program participants grew about 19% in 2020 and by another 10% in 2021. Having helped over 9,000 customers or CAP participants in a single year is a major milestone for the district. And again, it is the highest number of customers assisted on the program since the start of the program. Slide 11, please. Assisting more customers on CAP also comes with more expenditures. And over the past 10 years, the expenditures continue to grow and have grown quite a lot. Just in 2021, the program cost $3.06 million and is expected to exceed that amount in 2022. Slide 12, please. Through administering a CAP program since 1987, the district has been responsive to its ratepayers who are experiencing financial hardship and means to pay the district's minimum charges. Our customer assistance program is designed to assist customers with dealing with those many concerns and outside affordability challenges. And while we hope that this program is beneficial to others, we decided to reach out to some of our customers to get their feedback. This slide provides some of those testimonials of those customers who are very pleased with the CAP program. Slide 13, please. Having a CAP program allows the district to address the needs of the community. CAP programs are not a one-size-fits-all approach, and that is why over the years, we have made changes to ensure that we are supporting the needs of our low-income customers equally, as well as making sure we are making good business decisions. Under the board's direction and support to work with the cities to secure additional relief for our low-income customers, the district has remained focused since 2018 and has not given up on requesting that the cities adopt a customer assistance program for the city's sewer collection charges. And as a result, we have reached significant milestones with the cities Oakland and Emeryville on a joint CAP partnership and are in the process of finalizing a CAP program with the city of Berkeley. Slide 14, please. In December 2020, the district was able to work out an agreement with the city of Oakland to implement a CAP program for the city sewer collection charges for low-income customers. An addendum was authorized by the city of Oakland and the district in April 2021, and the program was successfully implemented in May 2021 and currently in phase 2 of an incremental rollout. Slide 15, please. EBMUD's CAP for Oakland customers provide a discount of $73.19, and the city of Oakland's CAP discount is a little over $18. This sample bill shows how those credit benefits reduce the amount of the bill significantly for Oakland CAP customers, which represent about 50% of the CAP participants. So basically, when you combine both CAP credits from the district and from the city of Oakland, an Oakland CAP participant benefits from a savings of roughly $91 per billing period. Slide 16, please. In November 2021, after working closely with the city of Emeryville, the district obtained an agreement with them to adopt a resolution to implement a CAP program for the city sewer collection charges for their low-income community. Their program will provide a 35% credit on the bill. Emeryville's CAP was recently implemented, and customers will begin to see a credit on their bills starting in April 2022. Slide 17, please. In December 2021, the district worked with the city of Berkeley to adopt a CAP program for fiscal year 2022. And if an agreement is reached, the city of Berkeley's program will provide a 35% credit on the bill. And while we remain optimistic that the city of Berkeley will also adopt a customer assistance program for their low-income community members, we still have not received an agreement. But staff is determined to keep this a top priority and are hopeful an agreement will soon be achieved. So I will pause here for questions. And if there aren't any questions, I will turn it over to Terry.
Any questions from the board?
I don't see any.
I'm
Thank you very
just
much.
wondering,
Great
Latrice,
progress.
Great, thank you.
I was just wondering, Latrice, no final decision from Berkeley, but do you have a optimistic timeline?
I can take that question, Director Mellon. Well, we're optimistic because they already included that budget in their FY20 budget, and they also, I was at one of their council meetings, and their council does support the effort going forward. We are just at the point of working out an addendum to the agreement because in order for us to effectuate the CAP discount, they have to agree to amend the existing contract because we currently are under a 10-year contract with the city for doing the building services. And that's really the remaining step. Now, the thing is, without that step is, we cannot, implement the actual discount. So that is on them right now to work with us to finalize that agreement.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Latrice. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Terry Dean Alderson to continue with the presentation.
Good morning. Next slide, please. Thank you, Andrew and Latrice. Good morning. My name is Terry Dean Alderson, and I will be discussing the bill payment trends over the last 2 years as our customers, along with ourselves, make our way through this pandemic. Next slide. I'm sure you recall from year one, the district was quick to respond and suspend shutoffs for our customers. We intensified our outreach regarding our customer assistance programs and increased resources to support the growing need. Next slide. We have another year behind us, and now we have a 5-year trend for comparison purposes. And when looking at all accounts in total, our monthly average of late payments, those paid later than 60 days, has remained steady with a slight decrease. The vast majority, or 96% of our customers, do remit their payments within 60 days. Next slide. One second, my notes are a little off. Okay, as we take a closer look by customer type, we see that the 60-day delinquencies for single-family residential customers has decreased. Notably, this has occurred at the same time that CAP participation has increased. 95% of these customers remit their payments within 60 days, and 94% of the CAP customers do so as well. Next slide. This same trend continues when we look at our multifamily customers. 95% of this customer group also makes their payment within 60 days. Next slide. Lastly, our non-residential customers are no exception, with a slight downward trend and 96% making payments within 60 days. Next slide. Where we have seen significant increases is the group of customers paying more than 100 days late. Single-family customers paying more than 100 days late has increased 30% to 10,364 at the end of 2021. And non-residential customers in this category are up 20% to 934. Or 3% of our accounts have bills that are not paid within 100 days. In the past, before we suspended shutoffs, this would have provoked a disconnect notice for all of the accounts represented in the blue bars. However, back then, most customers ultimately brought their accounts current and avoided disconnection, as can be seen by the number in the orange bar. Less than 30% of single-family residential customers and less than 25% of non-residential accounts who received disconnect notices were actually disconnected. Next slide. Getting into the arrear amounts, single-family residential arrears have nearly doubled from last year's 7.2 million, and non-residential arrears have tripled from the 1.6 million last year. These numbers are at the end of 2021, and just to read them from the slide, they go up to over 13 million and for residential and 4.3 million to non-residential. Letters and emails have gone out and continue to go out to these customers, offering payment plans and extension and sharing the news about our customer assistance program. Next slide. To summarize the impacts, most customers pay their bill on time or make payment arrangements, but those who pay later than 100 days have increased, 30% for residential and 20% for non-residential, and the arrears are continuing to grow. Next slide. After having shared the news about our accounts in arrears, I'm happy to tell you about the utility arrears relief currently underway at the district. Next slide. There are multiple COVID relief programs that the district is working on accessing on behalf of our customers. First, the Emergency Rental Relief Program, or ERAP. ERAP was authorized under Senate Bill 91. The primary objective of this program is to help eligible households cover renter and utility arrears and also assist with prospective payments. The second is the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program. The program was rolled out in September based on Assembly Bill 148 to assist customers with drinking water arrearages accrued during the first part of the pandemic and is now being expanded to include wastewater. The third is the Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, or LIWAP, which is scheduled to be rolled out in May. I believe the board has heard about these programs from Marlene Dumaine during her legislative updates. Next slide. Since August, staff has coordinated with the Department of Housing and Community Development to validate Emergency Rental Assistance Program eligibility for 988 households. Customers must apply for this program, and then the payments come in on their behalf, just like any other water bill payment. So far, the district has received $69,000 on behalf of ERAP households, which helped 78 customers with their utility debt. These customers are excluded from arrearage funding from the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program. We have been carefully monitoring payments received as they arrive in intervals. However, we recently learned that Emergency Rental Assistance Program payments for drinking water were placed on hold by the state while the California Water and Wastewater Arrearage payments are pending. Next slide. The California Water and Wastewater Arrearage Payment Program is being administered by the State Water Board to provide relief to community water and wastewater system customers for unpaid bills related to the pandemic. This was the result of AB 148, which allocated funds from the Federal American Rescue Plan Act. The program has a funding level of $985 million to provide financial relief to customers with past due bills from the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic period. That period is March 4th, 2020 through June 15th, 2021. The program initially prioritizes drinking water arrearages, and water agencies were required to submit applications to the State Water Board with a plan to have all the funding for water arrears dispersed by the end of January. It's February, and the application period for wastewater arrears opened last week, and wastewater agencies will go through the same process. There are also funds allocated to cover administration costs. This can be 3% of the eligible arrears up to $3 million. It is important to note that these funds cover the arrears from only a portion of the time since we've been affected by COVID-19. There's more work to do to bring relief to our customers for arrears extending beyond June 15th, 2021. Next slide, please. At the time of the initial survey last September, the district reported 15 million in water and wastewater arrears that could be eligible for relief funds that would go towards helping over 10,000 customers, both residential and commercial. And this slide shows the breakdown as it was in September when we responded to the initial survey. Our application for water arrearage and CAP reimbursement funding was submitted on November 24th. We worked through the various administrative steps with the State Water Board and received our payment last week. Credits to the water bills are scheduled to begin later this month. Next slide. There were some significant and specific requirements associated with obtaining this funding. The district must issue bill credits within 60 days after receiving funds, offer payment plans for remaining balances, which we already do in all of our bill reminders, include a referral to other available assistance in our customer correspondence notifying them of this credit. The district must waive all late fees associated with these arrears. Water agencies may not discontinue water service before 30 days have passed since offering these payment plans. The program prohibits agencies from applying funds to closed accounts, so funds not used must be returned within 6 months. In addition to these requirements, the State Water Board was explicit about how the credits must be handled in the system and the way they appear on statements. Staff has worked diligently since last fall to complete the necessary modifications and required testing of our billing system to comply with the technical requirements. And we are wrapping it up over the next 2 weeks in order to begin issuing the credits. Next slide. LIWAP is the Federal Water Rate Assistance Program that our own Andrew Lee has been working with the Department of Health and Human Services to implement on a national level. This is a one-time federally funded emergency program where $1.1 billion was appropriated in the Consolidated Appropriations and American Rescue Plan Acts. This is another program with the intent to maintain water and wastewater service for low-income households. California's LIWAP plan was accepted by the Department of Health and Human Services last November. Next slide. Specific to California, $116 million was allocated. The plan is to prioritize households with services disconnected or shutoffs pending. Eligible households could receive a one-time benefit of up to $2,000. The program enables renters to apply even when landlords pay the utility bills by allowing a prospective rent reduction. Utilities must sign a vendor agreement, but similar to ERAP, payments will come in on the customer's behalf and treated like any other payment. The state plans to begin rolling out this program in May. Next slide. Okay, we covered our current arrears situation and the relief funding that is underway. We can pause here for questions and hand it over to Andrew Lee to tell you more about our customer support program.
Director Mallon?
I thought I heard on the radio this morning that one or more of these programs is going to be is up for extension in the state capitol. Do you know anything about that, Terry?
It could be the QUAP program because they just recently extended the program to wastewater. Because initially when they rolled it out earlier, late last year, it was only intended to cover drinking water. And then it was later on, after they received all the applications from all the utilities, they determined that there's enough fund there to fund additional relief.
The trouble with listening to morning news radio is sometimes they blast so quickly through something that all you can hear is the state's looking to extend, and then it's gone. And so I was hoping, I'm hoping you're right, Andrew. I just wasn't sure if you guys would have something up to date, realizing you prepared this a week ago.
And I understand, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I know our in Sacramento, Marlene and Debbie, they are tracking this thing very closely. We are getting up-to-date information on this. And anytime when we receive new information and we are taking action, because this is one of the most, highest priority for the district to make sure that we do get access to those relief for our customers. It is the highest on our priority.
And
Thank you very much.
Director Mellon, also, I'll just mention, I heard things on the radio too, and there's lots of things going on. You may have also heard what they had talked about was not related to the CAP program, but also an extension for paid leave for COVID. So that was covered heavily on the news this morning.
I was going to bring that up in the other meeting we're going to. Thank you.
I wanted just to chime in and say our up-to-datedness and our contact and the immediate relief that people have expressed in settings that I've tuned into gives EBMUD a leg up as we go forward. Most of the programs that come on the media talk about the problem. And when they get to EBMUD, we have programs that talk about or input that talk about our contact and the fact that we're doing something about the problem. Others are still striving to get into the groove, but we're already there. So I just wanted to make that comment and commend staff on your outstanding effort in this regard.
Hear, hear.
Okay, take it away, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Terry. So I'm going to continue here for the remainder of the workshop and starting with a really quick update on our customer support program. Next slide, please. So the board may recall, a year ago, we shared with you a plan to redesign our customer support program to really underscore a few underlying principles, which we want to take a customer-centric approach to support our customers. We want to be proactive and be responsive to their needs. We also want to build flexibility within our program where customers can access a wide range of tools to meet their specific needs. We want to demonstrate empathy because our customers are obviously going through a lot. And look for innovative ways to support customers, like how we're using a lot of data, which you're going to see later on map and GIS mapping to really help promote programs like CAP. And finally, we do want to make sure our program can be accessed by all customers equally, especially those in our disadvantaged community. So again, the purpose of this redesign is really put the customer in the center of everything we do. Next slide, please. So there are some advancements we have made during the last 12 months for the customer support program. And those advancements include, providing $3 million to support CAP customers in making their water bill more affordable. We have designed over 30,000 custom payment plans to help customers to meet their payment requirements. And then also for our Water Lifeline program, our employees continue to make generous donations to help those in need. To date, our employees have donated more than 30,000 in total to the program. And for 2022, our employee pledged another $6,800, which will continue to add to that total. So another bit of good news I want to share with the board is that our customers also are beginning to donate to the Water Lifeline program. And that's really because of all the great work that PAO has been doing to promote the program through our many platforms. And the last item in this area of financial support is that we are exploring a strategy to secure a more sustainable funding for CAP. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in detail with the board later. Next slide, please. So a key focus for us for the customer support program is really to promote our water use management and lead testing programs. And looking at the numbers here, you see in the slide, we know a lot of customers are taking advantage of those programs that you see. And we are monitoring the data very closely to make sure that the program continue to be used and they continue to be effective, right? And for our conservation program, one obvious reason is that we want customers to conserve water, especially in a drought. But as a direct result of saving water, the customer will also have a lower bill, which is our goal. It is important that all customers really have equal access to all our programs. And this is why the district is including an equity piece to ensure all customers are provided the same opportunity to participate in programs like audit, rebates, and also having access to all the free devices that we do provide to customers to make water use more efficient. Next slide, please. So as a next step, we are looking at some new ideas to help our low-income customers. And some of those ideas include a possible partnership with PG&E's energy saving audit program to help customers look for water efficiency strategies in their home. And this is where PG&E go to each customer's home to look at energy savings opportunities, but we want to leverage that and expand it over to water. We are looking at offering a leak repair assistance for those who cannot afford expensive repairs in their home. We're also looking at a toilet direct install program where we can work with vendors to help eligible households to replace older fixtures. And a possible partnership with a flow meter manufacturer to make the device available to CAP customers at a very low or no cost. Obviously, the benefit of this kind of device is that it could help customer manage their water use. But most importantly, really look at how to identify leaks and prevent any kind of unexpected high water bill. And as a first step, we did a survey with our CAP customers, and for the survey, we sent out almost 6,000 emails to gauge interest in this programs. And from those 6,000 emails we sent out, we did receive about 900 responses, which is quite a success. And most of them have expressed some kind of interest in this program. So we're gonna use that to kind of help us guide the design of this program in the future. Next slide, please. So what kind of steps are we taking to look at equity within the program participation? Fairly simple. I mean, we are using a lot of geospatial data to kind of help us understand where the different district programs are being accessed. I just want to kind of point your attention to the map here. What this really shows is water conservation audit completed during 2016 to 2020. And also the close-up map also shows some audits that are being completed in Richmond, including those that are provided in our disadvantaged communities. And then you may ask, also why are there different colors of dots in the picture? Well, the green dots are audits that are done by district staff, and the blue dots are audits that were completed by our partner, the California Youth Energy Services Group. And why this is important is that I just want to point out that this kind of partnership really allow us to help expand our reach to allow us to serve more customers, especially in the underserved communities. And then for the coming year, I would like to explore how we can leverage this type of partnership to really extend our program more so into those communities. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to shift the discussion a little bit to our current effort to support the in-house community. Next slide. In 2020, the district was contacted by a community member requesting the district's permission to share water from basically a meter sitting on a customer's premise to their unhoused neighbor. This request came to us because many of our customers obviously want to do the right thing to support their unhoused neighbors, but they do want to do it in a way that without violating any district rules. And so in June of 2021, the board authorized 2 specific revisions to our regulations to support the in-house community. The first revision that authorized by the board was to allow residents to share their water with their in-house neighbor without really worrying about violating the district's policy. As you may be aware, that the district do not generally allow water services to cross parcel lines, meaning that the water that is provided from 1 meter to a single family home cannot go to another your neighbor's house, basically. So so this is an exception to help the unhoused community. The second revision that was authorized by the board is the use of our hydrant meters to provide emergency water service to sanction and manage encampments. This, you will see in the next slide that this revision is making a difference right away, and is making a significant impact. Next slide, please. So just last year, the district worked with the city of Oakland and some community groups to bring emergency water services to a navigation facility near the Lake Merritt area. This is located at 12th Street, by the way. This type of emergency service allow about 65 small units like the one you see on this picture here to have immediate access to water, which is critical to the operation. And this is really only possible because of the policy that adopted by this board to authorize this type of emergency use. I do want to remind the board that the incumbent do pay for the water being used, and they are being billed on a monthly basis. The benefit, though, with this type of solution is that there is no formal installation needed from the district's part. So there's no long lead time for this type of project. And since this is temporary, the applicant do not pay the SEC, which is quite a burden for some organizations. So that's the benefits that for this type of solution. I do see Director Mellon has his hand up.
I just wanted to clarify, Andrew, did you say monthly billing or the usual every 2 months billing?
I believe the hydrant meter program, they do get billed monthly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So next slide, please. So again, I'm going to pivot to our funding strategy.
Andrew,
Yes.
would you like to pause at this point, maybe see if there are any other questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, that's a great idea, Clifford. I think mine is, I have many sections I'm covering. So actually, any questions from the board at this point?
Yeah, Andrew, I was going to stop you, but then you were on a roll. The map that showed the water conservation audits, there still seem to be some large areas that weren't covered at all. And I was just wondering, is it just no housing there, or am I trying to figure out if you go back to that map?
Sure. Risha, do you mind go back?
We're going back.
One right there, yeah. So large chunk of Richmond, and also looks like East Oakland, perhaps there, where there's no audits at all, or it looks like one audit in Richmond there.
It could be those are open space areas. You're talking about kind of in that trapezoid shape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are mostly open space areas, and I'm not, I obviously I can probably zoom in more on the map to see if if there are a lot of development there or not. But again, I think that area, it looks like it's our reservoirs and probably a lot of open space and watershed land. But I can zoom in closer and see.
But the audits are just they're by request only, or do we kind of do random audits in areas or anything?
Correct. It's actually request by it's by request.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'd be kind of interested to know. Afterwards, if you can just send me a note or something like that, because I don't think those are all just open space areas, but I don't know. I don't know Richmond as well. I'm kind of looking at the Oakland area on the map as well.
There's definitely some opportunity for us to zoom in more on the map to see more closely and see how our our programs are making an impact. And maybe there's some opportunity for us to do more promotion about some of our availability of audit programs to make sure our customers are aware of them and requesting them, because ultimately we designed those programs to really help. I mean, for two purposes. One is to save water, and the second is really to help them reduce their water bill.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I have a request.
Yes.
And Andrew, I'll check in with you later, but I'd like to get one of the test kits on lead and some instruction. I'd like to see how that all works. And I can get in touch with you offline at a later time.
Definitely will do that. Director Young?
Yeah, I was curious how many unhoused persons we think are being supported by the actions that you described?
I
Is there
would
any way
say
to
that
know, or?
I don't have a precise number, but from what I know in terms of the work we have been doing for the since the pandemic is we have helped several encampments. There's one near the Old Coliseum we work with in providing services too. There's we have 2 sites in Berkeley that we're supporting in terms of water services to them. And all of them are, I don't know if I have a head count in those encampments, but they do have multiple the community member using that facility. We're also working with church groups to help them bring water to their portable units to help house the in-house. So the district is doing a lot. And now, do I have an inventory of all the different projects we've been working on? I probably can get that a list together. I would say I would respond in a way that we are doing quite a bit, and we are looking for a way to help whenever we can. But the issue is a big issue. I mean, I had the pleasure to go out to one of the encampments with one of the earlier public participants, Kyle Mitchell, and it was really eye-opening for me. The issues, that the challenges are real and is right in front of us. And obviously, the district has really positioned itself to really trying to help any way we can to support that community.
Thanks, Andrew.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other questions before I move forward? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to go forward with our funding strategy for our CAP program. So I just want to start by saying that we are going to expect a busy 2022, and with participation continue to increase, we also expect the cost to fund the program will grow. We are looking at we do have sufficient money right now to cover the program, but we do need a plan, a solid plan going forward into the future. Next slide, please. So as shared by Latrice earlier, the district provided over $3 million in CAP expense credits in 2021. And this is not a small number. And also this number does not include our own administrative costs to run the program, which is estimated around $500,000. The $500,000, it covers our labor, any kind of promotion activities such as, putting ads on bus routes, bus shelters, and the local newspapers. And to put things in perspective, the district has to generate around $340,000 in the FY22 dollars to support every 1,000 new participants that we do bring into the program. So with all this recent success in growing the program, I mean, there is one thing that really keeps me up at night is really how do we pay for the program at the current pace of growth, right? So, as we are aggressively promoting the program to increase participation, we do need a plan that is equally aggressive to find money to pay for it. With that in mind, I had a really, 2 very good discussions with the Finance Committee last year to explore some options to increase non-rate revenue to support CAP. The committee provided a lot of great feedback, and we do believe that we have a great path forward. And over the next few slides, I'm going to review 4 options with this board here and looking at how to prioritize those options going forward. Next slide, please. So CAP, at least for now, is largely supported by the district's real estate leases. And leases are great funding sources for CAP because they not only provide long-term, but very stable sources of revenue for us. Most of our leases are multi-year with built-in extensions and escalations. And some of the leases can go as long as 10 to 20 years, depending on how many extensions we provide to the lessees. And also there's minimal administrative costs. So once the lease is signed, really the rent gets deposited in the bank, and that's what we have to do. Additionally, there's little to no impact to our operations since we do define the area for each lease. And last year, the district generated nearly $5 million from our real estate portfolio. And as you can see the graph to the left, we have more than triple our real estate revenue since 2015. And that's, speaks to all the great work that our staff been doing. And for that $5 million, telecom lease accounted for over 50% of that total. And also based on ongoing interest that we've been seeing from our telecom operators, this segment really have the most potential for growth. Just because the district's reservoir sites are one of the most popular locations for telecom operators. And so as I'm speaking to you actually today, this morning, we continue to receive interest from telecom operators. And I know at least they're interested in 6 of our sites right now. So next slide, please. So even with all this interest that we're receiving from our telecom operators, we weren't able to execute any more new leases due to some of our own requirements. And one of those requirements is that the leasee must enter into an option agreement with the district before a lease can be executed. And an option is really a placeholder for a lease, but it's not an actual lease that they can rely on. And under an option, the leasee has just 1 year to get all the building permits to allow for construction before it expires. A lot of our leasees find that process very impractical and it's too risky for them because they do view the district can back out of an option anytime. So our effort to expand the telecom lease, to support CAP has stalled since 2019. Now, we do have, a recommendation on how to get that back on track. And the only way is really to modernize our current telecom leasing process with an update to the delegation resolution authorized by the board many years ago. We recognize that the telecom is often, exempt from CEQA review. However, it is, it's important that not a lot of people, we do recognize not a lot of people like telecom towers in the neighborhood. So we do want to have a solid, process in place to examine each site. And that process will include working closely with, OGC and our attorneys to perform a really careful and thorough analysis, determine if, each site that we are considering is exempt from CEQA. And if a site is determined to be CEQA exempt, our proposal is that, have the district file a notice of exemption, and only after the notice period, then staff would be authorized to execute a lease under the new process. And of course, under this new process, the district will not allow any construction activities to take place until the telecom operator has obtained all the building permits and also get community buy-in. And of course, all that work has to be done by the telecom operators ahead of time. And of course, for sites that are determined to be non-CEQA exempt, the new process would allow for a 2-year option instead of the 1 year that we authorize right now, for the leasee to complete their environmental review and obtain all their building permits prior to the lease construction, the lease execution, I do see a hand from Director Coleman.
Thank you, Andrew. I think this is actually a very creative and exciting way to generate revenue. I applaud you and the rest of the staff for basically thinking outside the box, bringing new revenue in that will help people who need help. So I just wanted to give you applause for that.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so and like I said, I had 2 great conversations with the finance committee, and they did make some really great recommendations and suggestions for making it even better. And one of them, is really building flexibility within the lease agreement to really allow our own use of this facility. We, as the district's exploring AMI, so potentially there's some opportunity for the district to use the same tower where we can support that program as well. And also another recommendation is that when it's appropriate and applicable, work to coordinate with cities and the impacted community to make sure that they have a full understanding of what's going on. And obviously, this is a process that we would use for sites that are not exempt. And to advance, continue to kind of move forward with this option here, we are working on identifying a pool of properties to expand our lease portfolio for both telecom and any type of regular land leases. I do see Director Coleman, your hand's still up. Do you have a follow-up question or this?
Sorry, I forgot to put it down. I'll put it down right now. I apologize.
Thank you. So I actually see a question from Director McIntosh.
Andrew, so do you have a ballpark figure? How much do you think this can bring in? How much revenue? And then the second question, is it dependable? Is it a dependable resource? Because they have to get the buy-in from the communities.
Well, and that's really the tricky part is it is from a revenue point of view, each site generates about $50,000 per each operator that goes on the tower. So one tower could potentially have multiple provider that goes on it. So it could easily go, $100,000, $150,000 per year per tower, right? And one of the benefit of that is that leases, especially telecom leases, they are not there just for a year. They are there for a long time. They long as 10, 20 years. That's why it's such a CAP program, because our program is going to be here forever. It's been here for 35 years, and I do expect it to be here for another 35, if not longer. And that's why it's very compatible for the two. We have a long-term program that we want to support our customers, and then we also have a long-term program that can actually fund that support for the customers.
And Andrew, maybe I'll just add for Director McIntosh, and just to re-emphasize what you said, these leases are long-term leases, 5 years with extensions for, additional years. So we know that this is a sustainable, stable source of funds. The other thing is when we looked at the properties and in our past experience and our need for the CAP program, you're going to hear about some of the other options that Andrew looked into. And all of them provide good funding, but this is the one that's going to really close the gap that we're looking for as we grow our CAP program. So we have a few other ideas, but this is really the best one.
Well, while I've chimed in, let me just say that I am very proud of this program, and you guys have been thoughtful and innovative, and I thank you for your commitment. As well. So great job. Oh, and also I'm especially proud of your outreach, because I've seen, the buses and the benches, and I'm always proud when I run across one of those. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I do see Director Patterson's hand up.
Yes, my comment is I would like you to move this before us as soon as possible so that we can really tune in on this. It seems to be the most viable option that we have that can help facilitate what we're trying to do. And again, I commend you on your efforts going forward and the past efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Patterson. And the board may see a recommendation to update our delegation authority. We'll be working with OTC to present something to the board shortly. And I do see Director Katz has his hand up as well.
Thanks for referring to the Finance Committee's comments and echoing what Director McIntosh said about community buy-in. I do think it's important that we make sure to build that into the way we're looking at the CEQA determination process, and that reflects the sentiment of the comments that I made at the Finance Committee.
Absolutely. For any site that are non-exempt, we obviously will go through a formal process, and we will go make sure that we do get buy-in from both locally and also within the community. So that is something that we're going to build into the process. And again, those are for non-exempt sites. Okay, I'm going to move forward with the presentation to look at the other options we have identified for growing CAP funding. Next slide, please, Risha. And so the second option we already put in motion is looking at transferring unclaimed funds from closed customer accounts to support the program. Existing state law already authorizes the district to claim funds that remain unclaimed under really two conditions. The first one is for any account that with a balance of less than $15 and remain unclaimed for 1 year can be claimed by the district immediately. The second is any balances of greater than $15 and older than 3 years can be claimed by the district after a formal public notification process. Currently, you may be surprised at the number here is that the district has approximately $2.1 million in unclaimed funds. And as a breakdown, 27,000 of that is from closed account with an unclaimed fund balance that is less than $15. That means we can have access to that fund now. And about $1.4 million are from closed accounts with an unclaimed balance that is greater than $15 and more than 3 years old. And that's the amount that we can claim after notification. And the remaining balance are from account that has greater than $15 in unclaimed balance, but is actually less than 3 years old. So the account hasn't really met the 3-year threshold yet. Next slide, please. And in June of 2021, we've been really laying the ground for this. We have updated the regulations to codify how we need to handle unclaimed funds. Currently, what we're doing right now is we're trying to finalize the procedure internally to really provide staff guideline to how to manage the unclaimed fund and making sure the process is done right. And once the procedure is approved, the district will first move to transfer the $27,000 in unclaimed fund to support CAP. And following that, we're going to start a public notification process for the $1.4 million. Really, why we're doing this is we want to give this customer an opportunity to claim their money before the amount is transferred. So, the $2.1 million sounds like a lot, but again, it could be a good resource for CAP. But the drawback is that it's not something we can, dependent on year after year. We just don't know is that number is going to be reliable or not. In 1 year we might have 0, in 1 year we might have, a little bit more. So that's why this is not one of our priority items in terms of, using it to fund the program. Next slide, please.
Andrew?
Yes, sir.
Frank Mellon here. I thought the state of California had a unclaimed funds pool that people could check into, and that all public agencies, if they have unclaimed funds, that's where it has to go to.
That's a good point. This is obviously we did our own research on that, and what we learned is that by following the state law right now is that we have the ability to claim it because we're a public agency, and at least for the amount that is $15 or less, and then we are following that process in terms of making sure that there's proper public notification for the amount that is greater than $15, and we are working closely with our general counsel's office to make sure we are following the law in terms of how we are managing that unclaimed fund.
Keep us posted. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Young?
Yeah, my question is about the, the roundup complexity, and I have questions about, the comment that managing the trust requires additional staff resources, and I also, I know from experience on nonprofit boards that I'm on that, the roundup can result in, substantial roundup plus, and additional. So roundup and do, $2 more or $4 more, actually can increase, can result in significant revenue. And I don't really understand what I'm sure setting it up on our bills would require, a fair amount of staff time, as would any other kind of donation,
Sure.
program. But it seems to me that it's sort of worth looking
Yes. So,
looking into a bit more.
yeah, so Director Young, I mean, that's a great comment, and this is something based on your comments, I mean, we'll look into to see, again, what it will take. Our priority right now, again, is to focus on the real estate leases first. We'll set up the Roundup program and see how much funding we can get from the Roundup, and if it turns out to be significant, then it may make more sense for us to set up our own trust program. So that's generally the order we'd like to do it in the sense that we'll get the program set up, we'll see what the participation is like. If it turns out to be significant, concurrently, we'll look into what it will take to set up our own trust.
Yeah. And I was about to cover those, two items on this slide here, but really in addressing your question is really, when you're talking about nonprofit, they already have a framework in place to do, to manage the donation process and making donations tax deductible. For us to do it, I'm sure that we can set up a trust, but it's really the issue is not about just setting up the trust. It's really finding the resources to manage it, because any amount that we spend to manage that donation, it has to come out from the donation itself. Because if not, then it gets to the whole concerns about Prop 218 using laborers to manage not related activities. But I think that's the key thing. But one of the programs we actually looked at very closely is a SMUD program, and they have their strategy is really to partner with their charity partner to run the program. So they do collect the money, but that money is dispersed to their charity partner, and they disperse the fund on their behalf. And they have the framework to make things tax deductible and issue the paperwork for the donors. And we're going to do more, digging, and we're going to learn more about it. This is something obviously is new for me, and we are consulting with OGC, and we continue to look at what other utilities are doing, and we're going to find the most successful program to model after.
Okay.
Thank you. And Director Coleman?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And sort of teeing off what Marguerite was asking, I don't know how long it's going to take to set up the trust or whatever process we use, but haven't we used like Catholic Charities and others to help with the CAP program initially? And they have programs where maybe we can initially, until we set the process in place, utilize their services so we don't have people fall behind more and being able to capitalize on the program. Again, I know it's an OGC question, but maybe that's what SMUD and others do. But rather than waiting time and getting all the paperwork that is required from the state and the federal government to do this, we might be able to use a ongoing nonprofit NGO in our service area that we've worked with.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and we've been doing it right now with our nonprofits. I think for Contra Costa County, we just switched to RCF, and also for the Alameda customers, we're working with San Francisco de Paul. And both of those agencies are doing such a wonderful job in terms of helping our customers that are in need. And obviously they're able to do it so much faster is because they only have the framework. They've been in that business for a long time. They've been in that utility, that space for a long time. So I have the experience. I don't have the experience yet, but it's not something I cannot learn. Obviously I can, it'll take me some time to learn it, but I think sometimes leveraging kind of the skills and experience out there can actually help our customers more and try to sometimes try to learn from scratch.
Yeah, but I'll say, Andrew and Director Coleman, I mean, in short, that is our plan.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't lose time and opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. I'm going to continue with the presentation here. It sounds like we've kind of talked about this already, this slide here. So we did look at, for our own donation program, we did look at two options. One is to do a roundup, which we talked about. The other is really looking at a one-time donation where any customers can, sign on and give any amount to support the program. So again, we will continue to explore those ideas and make necessary take necessary steps to make sure those programs are implemented in the near future. Next slide, please. And so, with consideration to what it takes to, we talk about this to run our own program. the recommendation right now is really shift to a model where we can leverage our existing partnership with the Water Lifeline to expand, the program's current capacity instead. And this could mean that we can create a portal within our payment vendor system to prompt donations from customers to, when they pay the water bill online, and direct those donations to those charities. So for this to work, I mean, we do have to probably rework some of our existing agreement with our Lifeline partners, and put in place some framework for them to manage and disperse that donations to eligible households. One of the positive outcome of this type of arrangement, obviously, is they do have the experience, they do have the framework to make those donations tax deductible, since they make directly to charities, and so that way may even encourage more donations from the public. And of course, once it's implemented, the district will do our part to make sure those options are being promoted to the customer, so they become aware of those options for them. Next slide, please. So the last option that we discussed with the Finance Committee is looking at a private lateral insurance program. I think the board probably heard about this type of program in the past. A private lateral insurance program, they have been used throughout the country to help customers offset, expensive repair bills for both water and wastewater laterals. And for many years, utilities have partnered with a lot of different insurance providers to sell those type of plans. And in return, the utilities would receive a small portion of the proceeds, typically about 50 cents or so per month for each account that signed up for the program. And when we first looked at this opportunity back in 2019, we did elect it to, instead of committing to one single partnership with a vendor, we did decided to kind of share the information of all the different vendors that does business in California with our customers. So we leave it to the customer to make that ultimate decision who they want to do business with. Next slide, please. So I do recognize that this kind of partnership offers both, challenges, but also, financial benefits to the district, right? And in order to really make a prudent decision how we're going to move forward, what I'm recommending is that we'll continue to look at the long-term benefits and looking at ways to mitigate any kind of potential exposures that we can identify through this type of partnership. And once that we were able to get through the first three options I talked about earlier, and also with the COVID relief funding behind us, then we will revisit this particular item again. And then, so as a recommendation, we're going to maintain our current model by continue to share our vendor information on the website, so our customer can make that decision for themselves, who do they want to do business with. Next slide, please. So, as much as we want to work on all these opportunities here, we do need to prioritize in a way that the most impactful items are being completed first. And then, of course, without any questions here, securing more outside COVID relief funding and dispersing that money to our affected customers has the highest priority. Second to that is really with your support, we will look for opportunity to expand our telecom leases. And since this option is really the most promising in securing more non-rate revenue. And as you saw earlier in one of the slides, that on its own, our real estate revenue provides enough money to fully fund our CAP program year after year so far. And next, we will begin our process of transferring any unclaimed funds to support CAP, since the framework is already in place to allow us to do it at this point. And then for the remaining couple items that we will continue to work on them as time and resources allow. And then for now, I'm just going to pause here for a moment to kind of get your thoughts on our strategy going forward, how we kind of find additional funding to support CAP. Any feedback?
Maybe, Andrew, we have only one more slide for next steps. Why don't you do that, and then we can take public comment and then wrap up with board comments.
Got it. Okay. Good suggestion, Clifford. And can I go to the next slide, please? Actually, next one. Next slide. So for our next year, priorities are simple. We will continue to find, effective ways to promote CAP especially in our underserved communities, to increase awareness, because we do want people to know about it. And when it's safe to do so, we want to have CAP application workshops to increase our enrollment within our community. We will also look for ways to continue to support customers affected by COVID, including secure more COVID relief fund whenever it's possible. And then finally, we want to follow our plan to secure additional funding to pay for CAP, because the way, a lot of our customers are depending on this, the ongoing success of this program to get by. So with that, let's go to the next slide, please. So this is the final slide here. And before I open up for, your questions and discussion, the board discussion, I do want to just highlight that, you see, a lot of progress was made in 2021, and a lot more action is being planned for the coming year. And again, before I turn it over to the board for your questions, I do want to just take a moment to thank all the amazing district staff that have been working tirelessly to help promote the CAP program, and also, helping in supporting our customers. And I also want to take a moment to thank all those that have helped the district in securing that nearly $10 million in COVID relief fund for our customers. I mean, this is truly a team effort, and from finance, ISD, PAO, our legislative office up in Sacramento, our OGC staff, and our general manager, and my own amazing team in customer service that make all this possible. And lastly, I do want to thank the board for really setting the stage for us to do what we really love to do, which is really supporting our customers. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the board for any questions and any follow-up discussions.
Andrew, let me just start by thanking you, and that's a great way to end your presentation, with the thanks to all the people, and it shows in the programs of the depth of thought and the depth of the amount of work is done in so many ways, and it makes us all very proud of our employees that way, and of the dedication to, as you said, serving our customer and making sure that we do that. So thank you for that very eloquent ending to the presentation. I wanted to give you one other opportunity too, maybe to either thank people or to talk about the outreach and the programs. I know, this also takes a community to deal with this problem. We've been dealing with other city governments, other agencies, county, city, and otherwise. I wonder if you would just kind of give us a glimpse into the partners. I mean, you've mentioned at various times the partners, but I think there's some that maybe perhaps haven't been mentioned, and efforts that you've made that there has, we have to point out anybody who hasn't been responsive necessarily, but anyway, I would be kind of curious about the community outreach that you've done and the other agency agencies with.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, President Lee, and it's true. It does take so much to really get the word out on this program. And if I have to name every single name here that I have to thank, we're going to be here for another probably hour or so. So we do want you to get to your close session on time. But really, I mean, besides all the support we get internally and within the district, I do want to thank our community partners that you're going to probably hear from some of them later on in public comment. Our NGO partners really giving us great ideas, like the whole thing about moving the CAP applications to online. That's a suggestion from one of our community partners out there from the NGO community. So I want to thank them for that. We have our interns, really brilliant, young minds that just, came in and they saw the program and they're so passionate about it. And they took that passion to their community, to their schools, and they really, try to put the message out there. And they still are in contact with us. in terms of with even new ideas, trying to get the translations done, help us get more language out there to get to other community that we couldn't reach because of, the certain, it's not, certain language is not included in the translation. So I thank them for that. And my own assistant, it takes a whole group of folks that make this whole thing work. And it is, CAP has grown to be this really significant program. And we realized that everyone has to be kind of chip in and make this work. And I just see nothing but passion and commitment from everyone that's, I spoke to make this thing better. And you, the board, I get so much support from you. I can't thank you enough to really kind of creating a stage for us to allow us to do our job, right? Without your policies, really there's nothing. We're just implementing your policies as well. So I want to thank you as well.
And maybe President Lynn, I'll just quickly add, without naming all the names, and I know Andrew said we don't want to go on for an hour with that, but I will say the community partners, the community that we work with has made this program better. They have asked us to do things, they have challenged us, they have helped us even prioritize, like Andrew mentioned, bringing the CAP application online. These are things that were on our roadmap, but they had made suggestions, do certain things sooner. And what we've seen is that partnering with the community and that partnering with advocates has made the program better.
That's great. Well, thank you. Other board questions, comments, and do we have public?
I thought we had a public person.
We have, so I have hands going up.
Okay.
I'm going to start with Kyle Mitchell. Kyle, you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now.
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Kyle Mitchell. I'm an attorney, but for today, more importantly, a volunteer here in Oakland with an organization called East Oakland Collective. East Oakland Collective serves the poor and especially the unhoused, especially to the east of the lake here in Oakland. I want to take time to thank a few names in particular, and of course the board for their changes related to water sharing and especially the use of the fire hydrant meters to provide water to the unhoused communities on our streets here. Now, Risha, thank you for helping us to route our open letter from, I think it was Thanksgiving of 2020. And Andrew, thank you so much for all your help and assistance and counsel and patience dealing and transforming those very rough-hewn ideas that we had into actual policy that the board was able to implement. I also want to call out Nicole Douglas at Field Services, who's been extremely patient and in dealing with both the changes and just the practicalities of having a hydrant meter account, which we were totally unaware of. I'd like to underscore just how important and impactful, especially the changes related to the hydrant meter program have been. We've only just started putting them out on the streets, so to speak. The changes going into effect last year, and then fundraising followed in order to open the account. But I can't overstate, just from my own experience, I never think about what water costs, except maybe when buying bottled water at a theme park back when we used to do that kind of thing. And I certainly never think about how heavy water is or whether water that I see is safe or unsafe to drink. All of those are daily issues for the unhoused, especially on the, as we call them, the curbside communities here in Oakland and Berkeley and throughout the water district. Just to give a sense, I was elated when Andrew shared news that the city of Oakland has actually used a hydrant meter for the new reconstructed camp on East 12th, the Lakeside Village. I was so happy I ran out there and took a picture of the hydrant meter, felt pretty giddy about it. Just to give a sense, sharing that news with other volunteers, with nonprofit people who are active in relief and assistance programs, and with unhoused people that I work with generally, all seem to agree that that really felt like the way to go. Making sure that there is, if not necessarily a tap to turn in your tent or in your shelter, but a way to get water essentially from a hose, so you can fill a container where you are, that's available all day long, and that the water is safe and you know that it's safe. That's the best solution. Accepting that really these people should be in homes that have taps. But if we can't get there, or we can't get there now, really that kind of connection and that kind of service represents the best we've seen. So thank you so much for making that available. I meet and deal with people for whom this has an immediate daily impact. We are rolling it out. I expect that it will be impactful for more and more in-house people, especially here in Oakland, but also in Berkeley and elsewhere over time. So thank you to the board. Thank you especially to Andrew. He's heard that too much maybe from me already, but especially with respect to the hydrant meter rule changes. That's been an amazing step forward and very reassuring.
All right, Kyle, thank you very much for providing that testimony and giving us that hands-on perspective. Our next speaker.
Next, we have James Becker. James, you should be able to unmute your mic, and
Thank
your
you.
3 minutes will start now.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Jim Becker. I'm the president and CEO of the Richmond Community Foundation, and we are one of the partners with EBMUD in the CAP program and being able to provide additional resources to your customers. What's exciting about this partnership for us is through our SparkPoint centers, we have been providing financial assistance and support for many years. And during the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, we were Contra Costa County's main provider for emergency cash assistance throughout the district. We're excited because the missing piece for us was often utilities. Well, we had the resources to help cover people's rent or other things, food, access to healthcare, et cetera. It wasn't until we developed the partnership with EBMUD and with Andrew and his team that we were able to make the package complete. So I wanted to thank you for the partnership, and we're looking forward to another good year with you all this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jim. Again, I really appreciate you coming today.
Next, we have Laura Feinstein. You should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes will start now.
Hi there. Thank you very much. Thanks very much for inviting me, Andrew. Really enjoyed the presentation. I want to commend you on approaching the problem so holistically. I mean, I heard you talk about not just customer assistance as bill reductions, but also offering people better audits and opportunities to conserve water and offering water to people who are unhoused. And I just really appreciate that you've taken on so many aspects of the issue. And also really talked about it from a value-driven perspective. You know, that EBMUD is motivated to do this as a service to the community. I think that's just a really important framing, and appreciated that. So I have a couple questions, and I think given that I have 3 minutes, I'll just ask them in a row and then let you answer them all. So the questions that I have, first was, I was curious whether renters can take part in the water use management program. And I know that there's sort of two different groups of renters. There's renters in single family homes. So they pay their water bill directly, they're metered, but they don't own the home, and so they aren't authorized to make upgrades. And so they can have trouble participating in these types of programs. And then there's the multifamily situation where often the renter isn't individually metered, they don't directly pay the bill to EBMUD, but the landlord puts the cost into the rent or as an added cost every month. So oftentimes the landlord, who's the one authorized to make upgrades, isn't very strongly motivated to conserve and reduce the bills because they can directly pass them on to the renter. So does it reach the multifamily renter market too? And then I was also interested, I just wanted to mention an interesting conversation that I had recently with an affordable housing provider. That most of their units are in EBMUD's service area. I think maybe all of them are. But of course, sometimes the wastewater is actually charged by a local provider, not EBMUD. And this person was bringing up for me some really interesting issues from her perspective. First of all, she pointed out that they spend 10% of their operating costs on water and wastewater fees. So this is an affordable housing provider at East Bay. That really surprised me. She said it's almost twice what they spend on energy. And she was pointing out that one thing that's a challenge for them is that because of how the rates are structured, they don't get much reduction in their bills for conservation efforts. So on the drinking water side, it's less extreme, but still like a lot of the rates are in the fixed charge. So when they reduce their use, they don't see much savings on their bill. But she was really pointing to the wastewater side, and that for many of their properties, they don't get a volumetric charge for wastewater. It's fixed. So regardless of how much they conserve, they really don't see any reduction in their wastewater bill. So she was pointing out that wastewater is just a big cost for affordable housing providers, and that because of how the rates are structured with high fixed charges, they don't get much incentive to conserve. And so there hasn't been the same push it's been hard for her to make a cost effectiveness argument at her organization for conserving water and for investing in those types of things. So I thought that was a really important point to think about, and whether thinking about rates and especially making wastewater charges volumetric. I realize I'm pretty sure East Bay MUD does charge them volumetrically, but I know some of the smaller city wastewater programs don't. Whether that's something you've thought about, whether you can do technical assistance. She said that many of the municipal providers, when she talks to them, say it's too difficult to go to volumetric charges. Is that something East Bay MUD could provide support on? Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Andrew, maybe I can take first. Thank you, Laura, for your comments, and I'll take maybe the last question first. In particular, with the City of Oakland, we know that they do not do volumetric. We have approached Oakland and made those suggestions and made ourselves available to provide feedback on how we do that. So that is something that we recognize that could be a benefit to customers if their sewer collection charge were based on the volumetric usage. So that is something that we have engaged Oakland with. And Andrew, maybe you can take the others.
And just follow up on that question too, Laura. Thank you so much for coming today and participating in the workshop. They are in the process of doing another cost of service study for their sewer charges. So they're going to look at both volumetric and looking at also their current approach. So this is probably a good time to for them to do a full view of what is the most effective way to encourage conservation and regarding the volumetric charges for sewer. And then regarding your first two questions about how to extend our water efficiency management program for both the renters and multifamily housing members, we do have programs for that. We do work with HOAs to provide a different type of audits, and so our program do get extended to the individual units when we work with the individual HOAs that managing those properties.
Do you reach other types of renters as well, like renters in single family homes, for example?
Yes, I mean, obviously the renters in single family home, they are a customer of ours. They're direct customers, and we do work with them. If they request certain services from us, we do work with them directly to provide those type of audits and other consultations.
And do they need permission from their landlord to either do the audit or to perform the upgrades that are recommended?
I don't know about the upgrades itself because we don't really do any upgrades within the home, but we could go inside and do the audits, at least the audits.
And do you make any special effort to reach out to rented properties, rented multifamily? Because HOAs are usually condos, but I'm curious about rented buildings.
We do have an inventory of at least the one that I'm aware of HOAs that we do communicate with them on a regular basis, especially like in like this time right now when we're in a drought. So we do push our messages through HOAs and make sure that all the units are aware of that we're in a drought, and we all definitely try to work with them to conserve water. So that's really a lot, the different efforts that we are pushing on the HOA and the multifamily side.
Great. Yeah, one thought on the map, I think it was one of the chairpersons was asking about the map and why some places seem to have fewer dots than others. It would be really interesting to look at the number of people participating in those audits as a percentage of the number of housing units in that area, as well as a percentage of the rates of participation in different types of housing. For example, multifamily versus single family, just to see whether the penetration of the program is reaching all types of customers.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great suggestion, and we'll make a note of something that we're going to look at in the future.
Great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, are there any other speakers?
There are no other speakers for public comment.
All right, let's go to board member comment. Andy, you've had your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I first and foremost want to thank the staff for embracing this perspective on achieving greater equity through our customer assistance program. I recognize that this has been, over the course of a couple decades, this has been a very significant change for the district, and I think it is a long time coming and well appreciated. So there's so much to say about that, but I think that the staff and the community partners covered it very well. I think going forward, some of these strategies are good ways to raise additional funds. I look forward to some of the additional details, working with OGC and perhaps a revisit to the Finance Committee as we look to making these policies more formal. I also agree with some greater attention to specific issues regarding renters and renter participation. Recognizing that for the most part, most rental situations in multifamily buildings tend to have the owner taking responsibility for the water bill, but we're increasingly encouraging individual metering for new construction. We're may see a future where we have more sub-metering or individual metering through retrofits in the future. So we should get into a practice of understanding best practices for engaging renters, like the commenter from Spur mentioned. There's so many initiatives that I feel like the staff covered it so well. I don't need to make a lot of detailed comments. I just want to encourage continued community engagement and continued commitment. This may be one of the first times we've had a specific CAP-focused workshop, and I think that it signifies the commitment to the program, and I thank the staff for that and the board.
All right, Marguerite. You're on mute.
Lowered my hand, but didn't turn off the mute button.
Oh. I know you're trying to conserve bandwidth, but leave your mute off so that we can hear you.
Yeah, I also just want to applaud the progress and work of the last several years. Since joining the board, this has been a very important issue to me, and one that it feels like it's really come into its time. And I'm hoping that beyond, it was a very extensive presentation, and I don't have a lot of, I think maybe as evidenced by the lack of questions, comments, and concerns, you've actually pretty well captured the interests of the board. What I am hoping is that as we move out of, response to COVID, that the need for paying attention to water affordability and equity across across the state can be addressed, and that we can take our experiences as a leader in this area to help inform not just state programs, but also federal funding to support aligned equity. I have concerns about our, some of the programs that are suggesting putting rebates on PG&E bills for water. That's like, seems like to me a very mixed message and cross signal. Yeah, I just, the policy side at the state legislative side is not what this workshop was about, but I think that's where, a lot of the work that might be able to help us with, raising funds and paying for extending CAP to more people. That's where we're going to find some of those answers. So thanks again to Andrew and Latrice and the rest of the staff that have worked on this.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yes. One of the things that I had noticed, and again, I want to join with my colleagues on the board who are in fact calling to the attention of staff how much we recognize their contribution and what they're doing to further services for many of our ratepayers, customers, and disadvantaged populations. I want to say that really is a contrast that I look at as I see our achievements over the past 35 years. And of course, I think the board has always been supportive of this program and pushing for even more. What COVID did was crystallize our look at and give us an opportunity, primarily because people had more time to spend and they're looking at problems all around the horn. I've had the privilege of being kind of drafted on this White House Council, Advisory Council on environmental justice. I think that's a forerunner of what we have on a national level that Biden is doing in that regard. And he's pushing that out on the front end of all the construction, all of the infrastructure to make sure that those communities are in the picture. By contrast, we're way ahead of that. And what we've done through Clifford's efforts of fine-tuning my comments is to point to an agency that is on the front end of it and to encourage them to work through agencies like ours because they can get further down the road. We're already in touch with our communities of need. And when we talk about the underserved, the disadvantaged, the environmentally stressed and need for justice communities, that's where it all lies. And I'm merely citing the national speakers, the people who are invited to speak, listening to that litany. They're so far out of touch with the kinds of things that we're talking about, that we're so far advanced in. It makes you wonder, because the things they're asking for, they predate what we're doing right now. And that's where the trend is across the country, because they're down to the grassroots end of things. And so when you look at the Northeast, and when you look down the East Coast and into the South, that's the area where the environmental agency is looking now under Biden and getting feedback from those areas that were neglected during the past president's realm, who avoided these things and spearheaded things that put us behind. I don't want to make a speech. I just want to call your attention to the fact that we're trying to crystallize so that we're in tune with and encourage the present administration to work with agencies like EBMUD who are advanced to further get down the road of the kinds of things that they want to see. So I'm merely bringing that out to say, staff, you're right on, and we're supportive of what you're doing. And I think COVID has given us an opportunity to focus on that. It's given the people we help an opportunity to focus. It's given us a direct line to people's needs and how we serve them. And so it just makes me feel proud to be on the board and assisting in the endeavor of East Bay MUD, and to keep us out on the front end and to keep the needs of our people addressed. So that's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you, Bill. Other board members, any comments, questions? Frank.
I just wanted to say we've certainly come a long way, and Clifford, and using the incredible team that you've got, we were nowhere near this level of providing assistance 10 years ago, and I want to give kudos to the staff for all the work that they did, and this presentation was certainly awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. Good job on the presentation, and your team did a really good job in presenting. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Frank. All right, so I just want to say, we continue to see a lot of inequity in our country, in our communities, and certainly COVID has exacerbated that and made it even worse. And I think at some point we recognized a few years ago that if we weren't part of the solution, we're part of the problem. And I think that Clifford and Andrew and all the other team members that we heard from today and that we have thanked here in a broad general way have made this, have taken to the challenge of dealing both with the issue around the CAP program, but also lowering our connection fees for housing and things like that. And I think as Laura Friedman said, the idea that we're coming at this from a community perspective and not just a utility perspective, but as part of the community, I think has really made this program get to where it is right now. And I applaud the efforts and look forward to seeing what more we'll be able to do to work with the community this way. I'm feeling very proud today. Thank you. And with that, we will close the workshop and convene at 11:30 for our closed session. I'm sorry, Clifford, there may have been some remarks. I didn't give you a chance to have the final word on this.
Sure. Thank you, President Linney. And again, I want to thank you. I want to thank the board for all your support and feedback on the program to allow us to continue to grow and improve the CAP program. And I think what you've seen today, the success of the program is because of all the employees, all of our community partners, and of course the board. We know many of our customers were affected by COVID, and our efforts last year led to that largest increase in our CAP participation in its 35-year history. We've helped thousands of customers, and this is something that we can all be proud of. We've also done a lot last year, especially with obtaining funds for arrears relief, and we do have plans to continue to grow CAP in our support programs. And so just a quick summary of what I heard today is you'd like us to continue the work that we're doing, including getting arrears relief, continue to be proactive, especially working with renters, continue to work with our community partners, move forward with that sustainable funding strategy. And then there were a lot of questions from the board today, and we'll summarize our responses in an info memo just so that we can document all of our responses. And again, I'll just end. I can't thank the board enough and all the employees for making this program successful. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Clifford. So with that, we will now adjourn from the workshop, reconvene at 11:30 for our closed session meeting. Thank you.